besides being a roof over your head and a place for you to sleep and a place for you to raise a family, how can a home be more of a strategic life event savior than just four walls and a roof? Well, as we talked about before, owning a home can be a valuable, crucial, sometimes life or death investment in your future. There's an article that was in the Motley Fool titled "Your Home Can Come to Your Rescue." And we're not talking about just protecting you from rain. It can do a few things. And let's take a look at what a home can do to save or improve your life or prevent financial disaster. Again, more than just having four walls and a roof. First of all, if you own a home with a mortgage, you are prevented from being evicted from an apartment because the owner decided they don't want to rent the house anymore. Or you're prevented from having a large rent increase. We've seen rent increases in the last year and a half of hundreds of dollars, sometimes over $1,000. People that were paying $1,400-1,500, now they're paying $2,500. What would happen if your monthly housing expense went up by $500 a month, $600 a month? What would that do to your budget? What would that do to investments in retirement? Maybe kids going to school, maybe proper nutrition, maybe healthcare. That $600 a month is $7,000 a year with interest in 5 years. You could be talking $100,000 in personal net worth because your rent went up $500 if you compound it out. Owning a home gives you a monthly payment that's fixed, doesn't change. Your mortgage is a fixed payment, never goes up. So that could affect your future. In addition, you have the safety and security of knowing that you can plan for where you are going to live. Your schools, your social life, your employment is all based on where you live. If your landlord decided that they don't want to rent the home anymore or jack up the rate, and you have to move, you might have to pull your kids out of school and put them in another school. If you can't find another place suitable near where you live now, you might have to take another job if your new house, your new home is 2 hours away. You may not be involved with the same friends. You may not develop the same deep social connections to your neighborhood. Where you own a home, that's called roots, putting down roots. With a home, you're also probably more distant from neighbors. You know, apartments are wall to wall with a neighbor. Condos are wall to wall. Even rental homes are more likely to be closer in proximity to the house next door than homes that are owned by the resident. Look at this house. See the space in between the house? When's the last time you saw a rental home like that? Most houses that are for rent are in neighborhoods where the houses are closer together. How does that make a difference? Well, with a little more elbow room, you can have more autonomy in your life. You can do things, say things, act in a way that's a little more personal to you, where you don't have to always be looking over your shoulder at what your neighbor's doing. Certainly, this house here, there's neighbors that know who you are and they see you walking in your yard. But it's less intrusive than having somebody breathing down your neck. How does that affect your life? Well, those things can be emotionally and psychologically beneficial. If you have your own autonomy, you can live your own life, be your own person. Let's talk about preventing other negatives. Let's say worst case scenario, you have some crisis in your life, financial crisis, let's say, lose your job, have a large expense come up, medical expense maybe a personal financial challenge. If you're a homeowner, even if you just bought your house recently, you're more than likely going to be able to take out a home equity loan against your house. Now, you don't want to do this arbitrarily just to buy a new boat, but your home now becomes like an emergency fund. If you have run out of all your other money and it's between life and death of having $10,000 to bail somebody out of jail, or to fix a transmission on your car, or to, fly somewhere to see, a relative that's dying, whatever it is, you have that option now. You're going to have to pay it back, and it's going to cost you money with interest, but at least you have the option. Somebody in an apartment doesn't have the option of doing that. Whatever money they have, they have. In fact, when you buy an apartment, any extra cash you do have goes to your move-in expense, first payment, security, last payment, right? Your down payment on your house that you come up with, it's probably going to be a little more in dollars than your move-in expenses. Look, if you have an apartment that is $1,500 a month and you have to come up with first, last, and security, maybe it's going to be $5,000 total. If you buy a house, even a $200,000 house at 5% down, you might have to come up with $10,000. So it's going to be more money. However, that $10,000 is in your personal financial wealth statement. It's in the house. It's paid as a down payment. It reduces your loan. It gives you equity. The money you pay to the landlord, it's just gone. It goes away. Technically, your security deposit, someday you may get back, but you know as well as I do, you've moved out of apartments enough times to know that you're not going to get it all back. They're going to find ways to keep part of it. Plus, you don't make any interest on it. Just free money for the landlord. What about your long-term wealth? Well, of course, the big thing we know is homes build equity. Even with very modest inflation and home value increases, homes are worth more over time. And that value increase gives you equity. Now, you can't use that equity unless you sell your house, which means you have to buy another one, or if you borrow against it, which means you have to pay interest. So it's not something that's liquid that you can use every day, but in the long-term benefits of your life, that equity gives you value. Even if it's just you want to live for the rest of your life in that house, at some point your home is paid off 20 years later, 30 years later, you live for free. You have no rent, you have no mortgage. That's where your equity is an investment. So, as this article said, a home can come to your rescue. In fact, the headline is even more provocative. The headline says that being a homeowner could get you through a recession, which presumably we're going to have. How could it? Whether you're a regular homeowner or an investor, home values are rising. And they talk about home equity loan. If you're sitting on a lot of equity, one move you may want to make is apply for a home equity line of credit, HELOC. So a HELOC is different than a second mortgage. A HELOC is you get a line of credit. That line of credit is sitting there. You're not really paying interest on it until you use it. You might have to pay a small maintenance fee every month. But the HELOC is sitting there in case you have an emergency, you can tap it instantly. You don't have to apply for a new mortgage, go through the underwriting process. You already have that HELOC. And you could use it for an emergency. Again, last resort. Once you use it, now you're taking that emergency and putting it on your house. You don't want to take that lightly. Because once you take that emergency expense and put it on your house, now your home is in jeopardy until you pay it back. Because now you have a loan. But it is an option that you have where a renter doesn't have. They could get kicked out of their house. Not only do they not have the equity, but now if they don't have the money, they are homeless. If you live in an apartment with a $1,500 rent, you lose your job, you have no money in the bank, now you're homeless. You're living on the street. If you're a homeowner with a $1,500 mortgage, you lose your job and you have a HELOC, maybe you can borrow $20,000 from your HELOC that could last you 6 or 8 months until you find another job. Right? So there's advantages. Again, you don't want to take it lightly, but there are advantages of having that homeowner status credential. And you might say, well, how do I get a $1,500 mortgage? Well, even at 5 or 6% interest, you can buy a $200,000, $250,000 house and have a mortgage of about $1,500. And you might say, well, houses are more than $200,000. Many houses are more than $200,000. In fact, most houses are more than $200,000. However, there are plenty of houses that are $200,000. You've seen them on our channel. We feature it every week. 4, 5, or 6 homes all over the country that are $200,000. We're not talking about derelict, broken down houses. They're livable. Do they have new carpet? Probably not. Do they maybe need some paint? Probably do. But you could live in them from day one and do those things using sweat equity, or over time as you accumulate $400 or $500 for maybe, some new shutters, you put those on. You save up a few $100s for maybe a new door, you put that on. You can build that up over time. And the extra time you normally sit around playing video games or, playing golf, because you're a renter and there's no point in working on your house because it's not your house, now you can put your time into your house. You can invest your time into landscaping, painting, upgrading your house, which will give you more equity as well. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you on the next video.